Welcome everyone. Today we have our another new episode, and this is very important for us because today we have Human Achievement Alliance Day. So we have our honorable speakers, Professor Edward, Professor David Schumacher, Professor David Smith, Professor Robs, and Mr. Adam. So I want to start from Professor Edward.
Hello, thank you, Sharif, and I want to wish everybody happy Human Achievement Day. Here in the United States, it's October 21st. I'm not sure which part of the international date line our listeners are on, but today marks the anniversary of Thomas Edison perfecting the light bulb. He tried something like 6,000 filaments, supposedly. And he had one. He turned it on one evening, and the next morning it was still burning. So, what better way to symbolize achievement as to celebrate Human Achievement Day on this particular day? And the idea of this day is this: I want to focus people to focus their attention, first of all, to raise consciousness about the incredible world in which we live. And here I have to celebrate the achievement of Sharif, who every day puts on an incredible show focusing on the technologies that are going to unleash our prosperous future with long, healthy lives for all. So first, raise consciousness. Um, uh, Also, of course, very important, focus on the causes of human achievement, which is basically the human mind, our creative, innovative capacities, as well as the liberty to act and to do things. Like this guy right here who who perfected his versions of the personal computer, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, started in a garage. Okay, they had the liberty to just say, "I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to figure this thing out." It's incredible. Number three, to change the culture. Here in the United States, unfortunately, we have a culture that more and more is pessimistic, nihilistic, uh, full of anger. So, what we want to do with Human Achievement Day is change the culture. It's basing it on optimism, purpose, and joy and achievement. And then finally, setting the groundwork for the kind of institution and policy changes we're going to need to unleash this future. So I want everyone to go on your social media and post Human Achievement Day. Post the achievements of which you're proudest, or to which you aspire, or that inspire you. Celebrate the achievement of others. I want to mention two things, Sharif. The topic today is to look at what achievements are going to drive the future, and I want to focus on a couple of them. And I think the first one, pulling together so many things that you've had in your shows in the future, in the past, is biotech. There's a saying in the United States that the only certain things are death and taxes. Well, I'd sort of like to eliminate both of those. But what you've seen, and what just as in the last 30 or 40 years, the information and communications revolution have really driven technological development, have driven changes in the economy and so forth. What you're going to see in the decade or so to come is biotech driving the future and future achievements. And I'll just mention a few things very, very quickly, and then some of the others can comment on this. To sequence a human genome, which was done first right here in Rockville, Maryland, 6 miles from where I'm at, by Craig Venter, as well as a U.S. government project. In 2001, it cost $100 million to do that, not including capital costs. In 2007, it cost $10 million. Today, it's under $1,000. We can sequence a genome, and more researchers are discovering how to look at your genome and tell, well, here's what you're susceptible to, here are some of the risks, here are some of the good things, and so forth. Second, we have wearable diagnostics that are getting better and better. Not only can we take care of monitor your pulse and your blood sugar and things like that, you're going to have injectable as well as wearable technology and diagnostics that can look at almost every single biomarker in your body. Third, you have, of course, real world data going to an artificial intelligence that has your genome there. So it can monitor in real time your genome, your health, all of those little biomarkers, your electrolytes, your blood platelets, you name it. So if it looks like you're about to have a heart attack, the medics will be to your door before you even know it, because that's how good the technology is going to be in the future. But of course, you might not have to worry about that heart attack because every month it seems I see a breakthrough with the CRISPR-Cas9 genetic editing tool or some other biohack that's going to be able to go in and eliminate or mitigate some of these problems. I mentioned one in an earlier show where they're using a variation, the CRISPR-Cas9 genetic editing tool 2.0, to basically turn off the production of tau proteins in neurons in the brain. It's the clumping of tau proteins in the brain, among other things, that causes Alzheimer's. Researchers are literally experimenting now with ways of turning off Alzheimer's. This is incredible. So what you're going to see in the future, this technology that excites me in particular, is ways to expand our lives, our lives in terms of longevity and in terms of health. So it's not that you're going to be 100, 120 years old or 150 years old and decrepit. You're going to be healthy. This is the thing that I think is going to define achievements in the future in the next 10 years to 20 years. It's very exciting. Of course, there's many other things I'm going to give my esteemed colleagues here a chance to speak as well on this. But again, it's such a very exciting time. And again, I want all of you to go on social media, talk to your friends about human achievement, celebrate this day, celebrate your achievements, your aspirations, and what your inspirations are. And I want to thank all of you on this broadcast for the inspiring things you have all done, and especially Sharif here, who every day comes on with an incredible show. Everyone should be watching his shows.
Thank you, Professor Edward. Actually, all of the speakers actually inspiration. I just want to share some good news, like in Malaysia, that our government, they start to believe that World Talent Economy Forum, our dialogue is very, very important for national development. That's why 25 Octobers with Malaysian government climate change divisions, we are arranging special episode side by side. Many countries like Bangladesh, India, their government, university grant commissions, and many important corporations, though they are seeking our support. So how you every day you supporting World Talent Economy Forum, I request all of our speakers, it's Transhumanist Party, it's all of the corporations and the speaker, those who support World Talent Economy Forum, I request please support us because I'm sure you can change millions of people life. And I can give you the commitment, at least from grassroots level, uh, 10 state policymakers, they joining in World Talent Economy Forum, 109 university, more than 300 corporations, 10 different government, they are joining World Talent Economy Forum, and they are utilizing our content for the national developments. So we will start our journey from 25 October. I request all of our audience, please observe our show, and I'm sure different countries prime ministers and the ministers and the largest corporation from Asia Pacific like Petronas, like Khazana, all of them actually observe our show and our dialogue. Not only the dialogue, we will put all of our strategy for the national development of Malaysia. So thank you for your excellent support. Professor David Schumacher, you also a great friend of World Talent Economy Forum, and I'm really happy how Transhumanist Party helped me in my growing stage, because growing state, even all of the speaker, even Professor David Smith, Professor Robs, Mr. Dan, Madam Tony, and even Adam, everyone actually supporting our initiative. So it's a human achievement day. So how you want to contribute for my developing nations? Professor David Schumacher.
Yes, good morning, Sharif. Oh, well, morning here. Like Edward said, I don't know where people are viewing this from, what time zone they're in, or even what day they're in, or maybe they'll even view it, a week or two or a month down the road. That's the nicety of this type of technology. But that brings me back to the main comment today, and I want to thank Edward for that great introduction about Human Achievement Day. Edison, the light bulb, I think that's very appropriate, because as I was thinking about achievements that will drive future prosperity, I too was thinking of Edison. I too was thinking of electricity generation and distribution, and how at the time, I don't think anybody really had, I don't think they could have had any idea what electricity would have powered or what electricity would have empowered in the decades and the century to come. Electricity now is something that in most parts of the world people don't think about. I mean, here in my house, it runs through my walls. I can flip a switch and turn on a light. We take that all for granted. My heating and air conditioning, I live in the desert, is all done by electric. The water that's pumped here all comes by electric. It powers everything. So I think Edison, the Achievement Day, is a wonderful way to go about talking about this call. Now, in my adult life, I've spent most of that time in information technology, and there would be no information technology without electricity. So that lifeblood electricity that's flowing through everything is something that we've come to take for granted. So when we talk about achievements that's going to drive the world, I first start by looking at what information technology has done to change the world. A few years ago, I didn't even understand the term disruptive technology, and now information technology is driving that. We've done shows on fintech, the new form of banking and commerce. We've done shows on cryptocurrency, which is another form of electrically driven progress. Robotics, we've done shows on that. We've done shows about how education is being impacted by information technology. Uh, Edward hit on one of mine that I really like to pay attention to, and I think is very prominent in the Transhumanist Party, and that's what's going on in the medical field: increase of lifespan and health span. Also, information technology has empowered transportation, including the satellites that orbit and allow us to talk together by cell phone, by conference, such as this. The privatization of that going up into space, the uh, putting civilians into space for the first time. A lot of that is all done by calculations, by microprocessors, things that have come out of what started with Edison and the light bulb. We had no idea where that was going to go. So then I thought to myself, what is the next electricity? Is it information technology? That's where my bias would probably be because, as I said, that's where I spent most of my adult life. But I really think it's in what I'll call augmented intelligence. A lot of people talk about artificial intelligence, narrow, wide, general, super intelligence, but I think augmenting human intelligence is really where the future is at. And I think it will be a lot like electricity at some point, not in the too distant future, and that it will be so embedded in everything we don't even really think about it. It's just what's powering and what's empowering the next wave of great human achievement that's coming.
Mhm. Thank you. Thank you, Professor David Schumacher. Uh, I want to give floor Professor Rob. Before that, I just want to share few information because I can remember our second speakers for World Talent Economy Forum was Professor Rob. That time really hard for me, but he support me, and I just want to share our success because when, like, the first time someone support me, and this is the things I'm sharing, right? Different countries and the country chief, corporation chiefs, university grant commission chairman, everybody start to believe that, yeah, World Talent Economy Forum is the place. So I just want to give a special thanks, Professor Rob, because in the first time you trust me, you say, yeah, let's move forward. So this is one of our very, very, very exclusive show, especially even the Transhumanist Party, Tando, everyone. I want to give thanks because how they support World Talent Economy Forum. This is important. So 25 Octobers, we have our very exclusive project. This is actually starting. We have many important work with BBC, with university grant commissions, with ICC, with Tesla, Nikola Tesla graduate schools. So hopefully we can manage many interesting things. But this shows actually we are organizing with CASA. CASA is a climate change and water departments in Malaysia, and another big think tank, Asia Pacific, from Asia Pacific. This is Green Caucus. They are also supporting our World Talent Economy Forum initiative, and these are our great speaker, Professor James, Dr. Eric Dew, Professor Viva Homestoner, Dr. David Wood from Transhumanist Party, Sheikh Rahman, he is present senator from Georgia, Dr. Adrian David Chiok from Australia, Mr. Paul, Professor Rob, very, very, very helpful. I can remember his contribution. Beside that, Mr. David Kelly, Transhumanist Party, Professor David Smith from Tando, Professor Fred Philip from Tando, Dr. Talib Rafael, he is ex-Secretary General for UN WTO, Dr. Nikhil Agarwal's, Madam Ingrid, Professor Ainul Jaria. She is a famous speaker from International Islamic University, Mr. Iftekhar Patan. He's also supporting World Talent Economy Forum, and our famous Mr. Tom Rose. And I'm sure all of the largest corporations, from Asia Pacific, even different ministries from Asia Pacific, they will observe, they will be our audience. And beside that, we are getting more like invitation from different important places. Yes, every day what I try, I just sharing our content with the top level, like this planning ministry, prime minister office, and the different largest corporations. So they are very impressed with your contribution, very impressed. And I'm sure you can change human life, not only with the dialogue, with lot of projects, because now we need collaboration from developed nations, because collaboration is the key. We need modern science, engineering, and technology. We need technology transformations, investment, and we can create a excellent relationship with the developed nations. And thank you, Professor Rob, because the first time you trust me, you contribute for World Talent Economy Forum, and you are right, because we are continuously improving. So, Professor Rob.
Yes, and I'm so looking forward to seeing how awake I am at 3 o'clock in the morning for that event on the 25th, which should be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. Hey, but just one question on that slide you showed. It said 2020. Shouldn't it be 2021?
No, it's 2020 because of COVID. Because of COVID, they cannot continue this expo in 2020. So it's continue now for 6 months.
Gotcha.
So Rob, it's in essence the World's Fair from 2020.
Oh, is it? Oh, interesting. I missed the World's Fair. Okay, so back to topic. The areas that fascinate me, that I look at with regard to technologies that are going to improve human life going forward are robotics, AI for better decisions, human digital twins, digital consciousness, the advancements in remote work, so you could work and live in the same wherever you want, and you don't have to commute. Our ecologies and the new man-machine interfaces. So let's take each in turn real briefly. With regard to robotics, what's kind of interesting about the advancements in that right now are a lot of the really interesting stuff was going on in automotive companies. Honda in particular has done incredible work in that space, and it's kind of amazing to me that the technology companies aren't all that active in robotics outside of NVIDIA, who's building the brains for them. It's just kind of one of the fascinations. When I first ran into robotics as the future of technology, it was at a Dell event where they were talking about the future, but it just seemed very strange to me because it was almost like every Dell executive decided to miss that particular session. So they talked about how the entire industry was going to pivot to robotics, and Dell, the host of the session, wasn't on board, which is one of the few times I've been just kind of fascinated by an underlying dynamic. Another company to watch is Boston Dynamics, was owned by Google. They're doing some of the more interesting practical work, and of course, most recently, back to automotive companies, Tesla's entered with a very aggressive plan to bring humanoid robotics and helpmates into the household. But Tesla tends to overpromise and underdeliver. So if they're saying it's going to be next year, we're probably hoping it'll be at least sometime before next decade. But we are moving there rather aggressively. And of course, robotics do allow us to do a lot of things. For jobs that are unsafe for humans, we can use robots. There is, and then of course, for people that are are partially disabled, robots could make all the difference in terms of quality of life at home because they can provide assistance, arguably better assistance than trained monkeys, which are being used a lot in that role right now. AI for better decisions. This is kind of a good news, bad news kind of area. Artificial intelligence is coming into the market hard. Many of those artificial intelligence early deployments have failed rather spectacularly, largely due to the excessive cost that goes into training the AI. And then, of course, we've also discovered this problem of bias, where if their training set is corrupted, it results in an AI that is fundamentally insane, and that doesn't do any good. AIs can make decisions at machine speed, and the last thing you want is a machine that's making mistakes at machine speed, because humans cannot react fast enough. And so a lot of the focus of the industry is pivoted to reducing bias and assuming and assuring the data sets create a robot that does, or an artificial intelligence that does what you want it to do. But in place, it will free up an awful lot of people that are doing particularly early on repetitive jobs, and be able to do those jobs for them outside of robotics. Human digital twins. We are moving to digital twins rather broadly, this idea of the metaverse and being able to act and react with the real world in simulation. So the mistakes we make are done in simulation and are not done in human space, which is important if you're working with things like explosives or weapons, but particularly important when you're working with medications. Could we have everybody that's not talking mute their microphone, because it's introducing sound into the feed? So with human digital twins, then we should be able to do things like experiment with drugs, develop vaccines at machine speeds. We're still not there. The latest round of vaccines was sped up significantly through the use of supercomputers, but we're still not at the point of being able to do full vaccine preparedness, vaccine efficacy tests on a digital subject. But that's coming. And Edward was talking about CRISPR. When you start doing genetic manipulation, you really want to do that on some kind of a simulated model first, certainly long before you start doing it on humans, because the end result could be rather tragic. And as we get to these digital twins, then we will be able to do that experimentation and maybe explore ways to expand consciousness, create senses that we don't know that we have, turn on some of the dark parts of our DNA that might actually create benefit. But it would be much better if we first experimented that with a digital twin than, of course, experimenting with it on humans, because, as they say, sometimes those experiments can end rather badly. Digital consciousness. This is the idea of being able to take somebody and put them into a machine, the ghost in the machine, if you will. The idea of being able to transfer consciousness into a machine and therefore live forever. The long-term benefit is more with regard to society, however, than it is with the individual, because we're probably going to be able to transfer an emulation of you long before we'll be able to figure out how to transfer you into a machine. But that emulation could allow us to talk to people that would otherwise be long dead. Imagine what we like to be able to talk to Thomas Edison, or be able to talk to Tesla, a fascinating individual that lost his sanity far too soon, and certainly lost his life far too soon. But those interesting conversations we now can no longer have. Now, there are some theories that say that we might be able to simulate those individuals based on what it is they've done. And for those of us that are highly prolific, there is a reasonable chance that we'll be able to create emulations of who we are based on what it is we've written going forward. But that ability to be able to take somebody, a quintessential consciousness, and carry it forward to be able to provide advice and consultation, and on an individual basis for a dead parent to help out a child in their future life, could be amazing and really improve the quality of life going forward, and make people that now feel rather disconnected, allow them to be connected to something. And a digital consciousness actually works reasonably well. We've had good tests with regard to emulating humans and providing, say, people that are alone and older with digital companions that help them maintain their cognitive capabilities. So important stuff. Arcologies. As we move into this era of climate change, this idea of being able to co-locate living companies and the services that serve them all into one construct that can be physically protected, and then supplied with clean water, food, and medication is probably going to be critical going forward. Climate change is having a major impact on our lifestyle, and being able to secure humans and assure them is critical. And our ecologies, I believe, are technology that will be coming as climate becomes ever more harsh, and we need to better protect our population. Ironically, our ecologies are probably what we're going to end up doing on Mars, because it's the only thing that's really going to work there, given how hostile that environment is. And then finally, man-machine interface. Up to now, we've had in technology, we've had to contort ourselves to work with machines. We have to learn how to communicate with them. And what man-machine interface improvements are going to allow those machines to do is learn how to communicate with us. So going forward, and increasingly, these systems will learn about us, learn how to best communicate with us, learn how to best interoperate with us. And at some future point, we may not be able to separate the machine from the human, and will become some kind of combined entity. Likely well into the second half of this century, so nothing's going to happen soon. But that allowance of being able to create synergy between man and machine and create ever greater potential probably goes to the heart of transhumanism, and that's also in our future. So amazing things coming over the next 10 to 15 years that will really transform society, assuming we survive.
Thank you, Professor Rob. Professor David Smith.
Great discussion so far, and many people have touched up some of the things that were in my mind and list as we went through this. I actually went back and dusted off some of the grand challenges and things I've done in the past and looked at what we're doing. I loved with some of the places where Edward started with bio and how bio is going to change the world. I have to go back to something I said at the end of 1999, that this century was going to be about the age of bio. In the last issue of Business Week of that year, I believe that's still true. And it's not bio just in a healthcare sense, but it's bio throughout all of society, with our processes, our computing, our storage, everything like that are going to change and become part of the age of bio. If I look at achievements that are going to drive us, one of the achievements we're seeing is the everything is connected achievement. Everything in the world has become more digital. As it becomes digital, it becomes more intelligent. As it becomes more intelligent, it becomes connected. And we really are going in a place where one of the defining achievements we're going to have over the next 50 years is increasingly everything in the world will be connected. And the data that generates from that is going to dwarf what we have now. I mean, we're doubling data every 2 years. And I can see that trend going to doubling data almost every year as we're going forward in some of that. The digital twins, the metaverse, all of those are side effects of everything being connected and everything being digital. And it really has to drive along that as we look at it. I think one of the defining features of this century will be we will finally leave planet Earth, and that we will put humankind on other planets. And that even though we have primitive satellites outside our galaxy, we're going to see an increased emphasis on beginning to focus outside the near cloud of our locations in there. And, I think that's going to be a defining part of our change. One of the others, which is more near term, but I think it's going to have a greater impact, is one of our achievements is that education today has not changed much since the time of Socrates. And we still use the same Socratic methods for the most part, even as we duplicate them into digital. But I think we're going to see education have profound changes. We're already seeing that with companies saying you don't need a college degree anymore because information's changing so fast in the elements. We're going to see a lot of education uprooted And we're going to be going more and more down the road to the concept of just-in-time education. Just-in-time, any place, anywhere education. And I think that's going to be one of the achievements that on a global basis will have profound impact, because the change in education is going to particularly impact the citizens of any nation, because one of the achievements of this last century is we became global. This century, it's going to begin to have us equalizing the education across a whole lot of the world. I can keep on going with a lot of these. I think one of the other major ones is this is a place I've changed my thinking a lot in the last 4 or 5 years. I think we're going to see a change in currency. And it's really kind of interesting because COVID actually, to me, is one of the things that has accelerated this. In the past, I would tell you some of the constraints against changing currency to crypto, other types of currencies, is each of the country's national banks. Because the currency was not really a currency to spend and buy things from, but it was a way to maintain the value of the nation. You would regulate your currencies to maintain your policies, your way of life, and what you wanted to do more than anything else. And if you go to currencies that span multiple nations, you lose the ability to do that. That's part of what we saw in the EU as part of the early parts of the EU experiment, is that the lack of national banks to control their own regional economies suffered. But now that we're seeing these other changes, I think you're going to see currency change in the next 50 years, not next 10 years, but probably in the next 50 years. And because of that, you're going to see a lot of other things happen too. I actually, I think much like Rob did, I put my list together, the ones I thought that were profound. And I only touched on maybe a third of them, but this might be a good place to kind of pull back and let others get on and do the other discussions on this and come back to them. But the last point is I say this is, if you look at the ones I've mentioned so far, the big thing with them is they're all interconnected, and they all depend on each other, and they all work with each other, and they work on a global basis. One of the things I want to talk about later is one of the achievements I think we're going to see this time is a change in manufacturing. And we've already touched many in other programs, but I think the change in manufacturing is going to be more profound than just 3D printing and stuff like that. But Sharif, I think this is where I'll stop right now.
Thank you, Professor David Smith. We have our another guest, Mr. Greg. Thank you for joining today. So can you please share your views about Human Achievement Day?
Yes, I think we have a potential in the future to consolidate the way we live, where we can actually develop homes. I've got a concept for a home that you can live in, make a living out of, and actually grow all of your food in. This is a home concept that's based on having a family of 4 live on a tenth of an acre. But that tenth of an acre occupies your entire everything. You grow on top of your roof inside this home. I don't. Can I share a something? I don't know how. I'm not
Yes.
Yes. Oh, I see the share button in the bottom. Hang on. I like to show this to you real fast. Share screen. Don't show me the tips again. All right, let's see if I can. Okay, so this is sharing the entire screen. Then I got to blow this up. Yeah, so it's a little different than Zoom. I'm used to using Zoom. Can y'all see this? Can you see my presentation? I don't know if you can see that.
I see something now, but it's not. It doesn't look like your presentation.
Do you see something in it? Like a PowerPoint?
No, nothing now. We're back to just the faces.
Okay. Let me hit that again then. It looked like it was showing it there for a minute.
It was showing your screen, I think, but not your presentation earlier.
Okay. Let me see if I can do the share again.
But if you're going to show your entire screen again, make sure it's got something provocative on it.
Well, let's see. Usually I can pick. Oh, listen, my window. Okay. Oh, I see. Okay, this is the way I did it here. Yeah. There we go. Now it's able to do it. All right. Should be able to see it now, right?
There we go. Oh, there we are. There's your house. Got it.
Yeah. All right. So I'm just getting used to this software. I usually use Zoom. This is an architectural drawing of it from the outside looking in. This is a house that basically could have a greenhouse built over it. The notion of how it's built is you can do many different styles. The whole philosophy of this house is it's based on the tenth of an acre. So on the tenth of an acre, you can grow more than enough food to feed a family of 4. And I have concepts to multiply that too. Also, looking at it from the inside, this shows basically it's built like a greenhouse over it. But this roof is notional. There's many options for this. You're growing on your roof. Here's your living area, and here's basically your yard in front. And you're growing food all in this area. And there's a couple of ways you can grow. You can actually grow everything you need in a tenth of an acre. We've worked out the mathematics for it from some expert gardeners and I. But also, I know a family of 4 that lived in Pasadena, California, called the DeVace family, and I visited them a couple times and did videos on. I've got a channel called Green Greg's where I cover a lot of different topics. And I got a Galactic Greg's channel. I've also Space Channel. I've covered this on for YouTube. And this is an earlier rendition of it. You can see into the living quarters here, and you can see you're growing on the roof. So you're maximizing space here. But this is also intended to have a lot of thermal mass, very thick walls to retain temperature. And you would have venting to control the release of heat, perhaps fans if you need them. And you would have underground tubes to pull in cooler air as needed. So you could actually heat and cool this house naturally, passively. If you were looking at it on the side, it would have, my original concept was to have like a workshop area on the first level with a garden area. And this would be like at a tenth of an acre, your workshop would exceed 2,300 square feet. You'd have bedrooms, dining rooms. This is my first drawings of it. And I've got a high back wall here for a reason. You'll see in another thing. I got time to show you everything here. But this is a hexagon notion of looking through the edge of it. And that edge view is actually, it kind of defies the overall size of it because it's longer in the other dimension. Now, the architect that drew this out drew the difference is she drew a floor and a basement going all the way across, so that the living quarters has a floor going straight outside. So part of this is to be subterranean if the local ground area permits that. It depends on the water levels around there, the moisture, how you build it, the drainage you would have. That's optional too. In fact, this whole lower level is optional. But you would have the ability to have quite a shop area down there where you can put your 3D printers, your looms, grow mushrooms, worms, whatever you could. So you can increase what you can do with that quite a bit if you so chose. That's intended to be up to whoever lives there to be able to work with that. Again, this is my and their rendition of it to show the differences. And then again, that's the floor. Then the way she drew it, she intended that to be a full basement. I had a lady in Tunisia I hired to do these drawings for me. And she's going to do some more too down the road. This is looking straight down on it. The floor plan as I drew it out. Here is her rendition of it, different versions of it. She put a altar in here, a kind of a central area with lights coming in. And you can see you got the bedrooms, the kitchen, the living room. You got everything you need. I mean, there's a lot of room in a home like this. It's more roomy than most homes. And then she did a version which had you entering from the front with a garage, and this is upper level. And this is over the driveway, basically, because I thought if we're going to put a driveway in, put a growing area over it. Now, you don't have to have a garage in it or under it. You can come in from the back and dispense with all that. A lot of different ideas, but the basic philosophy of this is have enough room in your home to grow all the food you need to grow, and also have workshop areas. If you need to have a server farm, if you work from home, if you want to have a little production unit, a store, a bar, whatever you wanted to have. This is a place called Sustainable Harvest. There's a large aquaponics system in Texas that I visited. I took this picture. I do aquaponics. This is a deep water culture. I have a bed like this in a greenhouse that I've got behind my house. I'm already working with systems like this. I do worm farming. I work at NASA in the daytime. In fact, I'm taking a break from my day job to show you guys this. I'm going to have to get back to it soon. But to give you some real quick views, this can be a beautiful concept. I kind of wanted to, over the rooms, that she shows skylights in here. I was preferring to put a grate that would permit air. She didn't think it looked good, but permit, sunlight into the rooms below. So she just drew windows into it. But I wanted that just in the walkway, so I'd economize space. There's a lot of options. This is looking straight down over to her skylight windows and this aquarium in the center. Again, just to run you through this real fast. I've been working on this concept for a few years. So here is the combination of either hydroponics or aquaponics with growing in raised beds. That would actually give you extended area growing beyond the 10th of an acre. Yeah, that Gervais family in Pasadena, California, on a 10th of an acre, grew all the food they needed for a family of 4. And they actually, well, everything except their grain products. They didn't grow their starches in that, but they used it as a commercial garden. They grew a lot of greens, and they sell from that lot, and they actually make a living from that lot. They live meager now. The father dies. It's now just 3 adults living on. I've been out there a couple times before and after the father died and visited with them. I don't know, that's just kind of a pretty view. It kind of looks frosty, but this is the lady that was doing the work for me. She's in Tunisia. This is a rendition of this concept circular on Mars that another friend of mine put in a sim called Kitely. And this is a circular version. So this concept would work on Earth or in space. And in fact, this habitat, the reason I got the back wall on this is to fit it on a terrace. And this is that living unit here on a terrace. And if you put it on terraces and if you got a straight slope, you could have things behind it, underneath it. So you could actually multiply how you use that living area quite a bit. Now you're going to say, why have you got a mirror underneath? I'll show you in a minute. So as you multiply that out, it starts looking something like this. And these are these little homes. She's just not populated all the way around. These are intended to be side by side going around on these terraces. Now you could build something like this to float at sea for seasteading. You could put it in a crater, or you could stick it in Venus inside of a balloon a mile wide, and it's got more than enough buoyancy to accomplish. You're actually over buoyant, even in Earth's atmosphere. You can float this in Earth's atmosphere, but the Venus atmosphere is 44% more buoyant because the carbon dioxide has a higher molecular density. So being buoyant in the Venetian atmosphere is amazing. I mean, you're going to have to weight this thing down with like a production facility hanging beneath it. So this idea is for Earth, for space, for Venus, for Mars. You can put it on the moon. You can put it anywhere on Earth. I call it a universal habitat for that reason. And the beauty of having this in your space habitat would be that, or this could be floating in the ocean, guys. This could be like a ship, and then the sides could stick up high enough, maybe 100 feet or better over the ocean, so that you don't have to worry about those weird storms where you get superposition of waves that could get 100 feet high. You could get around all that stuff. You could have a harbor somewhere in there and be able to deal with that kind of stuff. The side view, you're actually got a living area underneath it here. That's this has got a living area down here, there, and I got other structure in this balloon. I mean, I'm too buoyant. I got to fill it up with some more stuff. But yeah, I did the calculations based on the homes, so the walls, the rocks. The thermal mass really helps maintain temperature. It helps maintain stability. At over a foot thick, you can make them really 2 foot thick was my concept. It's actually on Earth. If you were in here, you've got tons of radiation shielding. If a nuclear plant were to go bad, or if there was unfortunately nuclear war, you could grow your food in here. You could keep this hermetically sealed if you chose. This would be a heck of a survival bunker, actually, and it's built like a fortress. So it would be it's like hurricane proof as long as you don't get the wave. I mean, it's not waterproof. It's wind proof. Fire. The walls are meant to be built out of either concrete or sandbags, or you could use the earthship approach and pound dirt into tires, although I think that's very laborious. I think there's simpler ways to do it. You could 3D print these walls with concrete if you wanted to save labor, if that was your objective. But if you don't mind using labor, you could build the walls out of tires. So there's a lot of flexibility in how it's to be built. the basic design, this is my idea for one on Mars through the red dirt, or the moon, even with water overhead for radiation shielding. And that's also incorporated in that Mars concept I showed you earlier in the sim on Kitely. So yeah, we've been doing a lot of work. This is the hexagon. What y'all saw was looking down this angle here. This is a 3D printer that could work. I got a friend that's looking into buying one of these, by the way. If he does, it's possible that we might build some of these. I've got 40 acres in Arizona to build on. So really and truly, if you had a home you can live out of and make a living out of. Oh yeah, by the way, I go back up here. If you put like a solar water heaters on the side, anywhere where you've got your kitchen there, you got a short path to where you need hot water the most, your kitchen and bathroom. You could put photovoltaic cells inside, and that's actually depicted up here in this other rendition somewhere that you can see. There's solar cells in there. Here they are. And she didn't show a whole wall of them. She's got it mixed with greens, but you can cover this whole wall. If this side is your north side of the building. I intended actually to put them over here on this end, but there's many ways you could do this. So the idea is, with a home like this, you're not going to need to produce most energy in America. We talk about our cars. We focus on automobiles and making saving fuel and the carbon footprint by restricting the amount of automobile usage we have, or the efficiency of the automobiles, or changing them to electric. Well, our grid is not prepared for that, by the way, guys. To make a full switch right now, our grid is very vulnerable. I've chaired 2 power grid defense conferences. I know but the cool thing about this is, with all this thermal mass, you're not going to need to heat and cool this house, because heating and cooling is actually the biggest energy demand we have in America. Heating and cooling. Hot water is next. So I've taken care of the heating and cooling house, the hot water of the house. Suddenly, if you're living in your home that you are making a living out of and growing your food up, you have eliminated the supply chains, which we're having a lot of problems with supply chains today. Suddenly, your home is your supply chain, especially if you got a 3D printer, a lathe, a CNC machine, or something in your basement. You could have a potter wheel, a loom. Like I said, you got a huge workshop area down there that you could do your own manufacturing in, crafts. You can extend your growing area. So I've got a revolutionary idea here, and I'm trying to work it up. I'm planning to build one of these in my backyard here, and I got 40 acres in Arizona. And if you build them in hexagons, you can group them up. You could have an open courtyard inside where you can do other work with. The funny thing is, on a 1/10 of an acre, that's the computations for the sides of the hexagon. On a 1/10 of an acre, if you had this, you're talking 4,356 square foot home. Oh yeah, here I'm looking at putting it on ships, having a platform on ships. We could have 330 of these homes just sitting on ships with a platform between them, 3 hulls, tri-hull, and these are basically cargo ships. But if you put this on land, the amount of the surface area required to house the projected population of 9 billion people. At one time, that's what they were projecting our population to peak out by the UN. They've upped that a little bit, but the area I would never advocate putting everybody in one area, but just to show you an idea of the scale. They tell you that we have too many people, that we don't have enough room. If you had 9 billion people living in homes like this, they would only require an area the size of Texas and New Mexico, or half of Alaska. So we have plenty of room. And of course, I'd be putting all your eggs in one basket. So I definitely advocate spreading this out. Now here I'm talking about how much Americans eat. Yeah.
You might want to move this along a little bit, because we're running out of time and we still have a lot of speakers to go.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what I'd like to do maybe is make a full presentation of this in the future. I will one day, I'm going to write a book on this stuff, and I'm planning to do a GoFundMe to fund developing this stuff. I just wanted to give you guys a heads up. So the idea is, you're not going to, if you're living in this thing, you're not going to really need much in the way of automobile traffic. You're not going to need much in the way of distributed utilities. Let's see, I need to stop sharing. Okay. You're going to be able to, we're not going to need roads as much. We won't have to expand roads. We're not going to have to expand utilities. We're going to get rid of the distributed needs we have in society today. It's going to be revolutionary. I think this is the greenest concept anybody ever come up with. I think I've got the greenest, most zero carbon footprint concept there is on Earth, and it'll work.
Thank you, Mr. Greg, because we have other speakers, and our audience actually want to hear from other speakers as well. Madam Tony, I'm sorry that you come early, but I have to give some time to Mr. Greg. Yes, Madam Tony.
Okay, no, it's okay. Oh, hello for everyone. My name is Tony Bernstein. I'm from Brazil. I work as a journalist and as a longevity researcher from since 2006. I have an NGO that I'm not a scientist and I'm not a researcher on the technology field, but I also maintain a lot of knowledge, and it's very nice what every one of you were speaking about data and robots and electricians and around to go to another planet and a lot of things, but well, maybe I'm in a different way of researching, or my how to say, my thoughts are a little bit going to another way of I'm really very concerned about how people are living today in our planet and how people are aging today in our planet. And I know we have a lot in different countries in the same planet, and we still didn't arrange our own planet to give uh, a basic life for everyone. Here in Brazil, they say, "Oh, come on, you have the samba and the football." No, this is it's nice to say, but it's a really Brazil. It's a very, very rich country, but it's a very poor country because they don't. We have many resources, and we could have, as the Greg said, we have a lot of water to make energy and to make a lot of things and like electric cars, and but it doesn't happen anything of this because the government it doesn't want, and people doesn't have the benefits. Well, I don't want to be a kind of I'm not a politician on everything. I work more in the field of how to say the anthropological issue, the social issue, and okay, how to born, to live, and to go to get older in a better way. When we speak about robots, and Rob elderly said, okay, but I don't want to be, like, wow, this woman from Brazil is so negative. I'm not negative, but we are so far. I feel I live here, okay, in a bubble, because São Paulo, it's a big city. Rio de Janeiro, it's a big city, but maybe you heard about. But we have right from 200 kilometers from here, very, very poor people, 100 kilometers, living in the called favelas and places that they still don't have a bathroom or they don't have water, because we have, but they don't construct these things. So maybe I think to how to say, to low down a little bit our expectations. And in my way of thinking, maybe I thank Sharif to invite me to this Zoom, to this happening. But in my way of seeing, we need to do a lot of little things. And with your knowledge and a lot of, you don't need too much to make countries that the government calls, the world calls poor countries. We are not poor, but we live in poorness, because the distribution of the economic, it's not right, it's not okay. So we still don't have people that doesn't, kids with the COVID, a lot of people couldn't go to schools. We have government schools, public schools, but they are really bad. They still don't have. I started working, just going back a little time, 15 years ago, believing that the internet could be a way to do the social inclusion through the digital inclusion. And it still didn't happen. In a country like Brazil, we have, it's a transcontinental country. We have like more than 20, 30 states. It's like US. or Canada, but it's very big, and we have a lot of places, rural places, and little few urban places that are very, very concentrated. And people now, after COVID, our economy got even more more worse. Don't have jobs. So when we say we have, I understand what you say, and I believe, and I think it's very nice. I would love this could happen to all the world. When the other guy said, "Oh, we're going to Mars and Venus," but come on, we still didn't even arrange our own planet. We are not taking care of Earth. Why? I don't agree with this. I agree with science. I agree that we have to go on, to move on, to learn more. But maybe I'm a more in a social way, and I always worked a lot with social rights and human rights, not political parts, or maybe not right or left. I mean, in um, a good sense, to have a good sense that we need to distribute all this kind of knowledge, and even start thinking a little bit about, okay, we have a lot of water in Brazil. We have kilos of water. We have the aeolic thing. We have wind. We have everything to make. When you say about electric things, about we could have power in all our country and give electric power and other electric things to another countries also. But we still don't do this here, and maybe you are doing in your ways, and even build houses that could grow things, and people grow with their water. We have how the Greg's said, hydroponic agriculture, but they don't spread this. We have maybe more than a quarter, I think maybe 40% of our country has a a lot of earth, a lot of to plant, but they don't have water. We have a big river, but they don't transport the water to these places. So the people don't have food to eat. They have the earth, they have how to grow. Everything grows here. We have most of the time it's a hot country. We don't have snow, but we don't have food. Oh wow, come on, we have food, but we don't know. We don't want to. So I mean, I think this what every you are saying, it's very interesting and very nice, and even robots. When we say health in the health way, I don't know where coming this. Uh, I'm also looking and participating in the ILA's group and another groups about how to make possible for older people or elder people to live better. Okay, you can do robots to take care of them, but how can you afford this? How can you do if we still didn't have um, nurses or home cares, or to take care of people who needs care? So I think it's we live in the
Mhm.
same world in different worlds, in different
Yes.
stages, and I don't
Mhm.
know what can I say. I just see
Okay.
everything. It's
But
kind of this.
yeah.
Yeah.
If you
By the way,
have
Thank
a
you.
I'll just add very quickly because I've worked starting in the late '80s on an index of economic freedom, and we've got 30
Mhm.
some years of data. The strongest correlation and cause of prosperity, bringing countries from being very poor to prosperous, is economic liberty. And unfortunately, Brazil doesn't have as much of it as it would be as we would like. So yeah, I call your attention to the index of economic freedom. So thank you for your comments.
okay.
Mhm.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
So that's
Thank you.
my thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, Madam Tony. Uh,
Congrats. Hmm.
thank you.
Okay.
Uh,
Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Adam. Adam, Can you hear me, Mr. Adam? Sorry, Mr. Dan.
He might have frozen internet there. Yeah, I'm glad we got to get to this topic. It's an important one. When we say prosperity, we need to look at, is that going to be a shared prosperity or kind of a very concentrated kind of oligarchical prosperity? And I think key to, maybe I have some feedback. Let me turn down my room speaker here. Key to achieving that is going to be better relationships with the resources of nature. Traditionally, people have monopolized the resources of nature, especially land, because they got there first and they had military superiority and they established governments on the land. And really, a government is nothing but a monopoly on force over a limited geographic territory. And one of the most prosperous and high value real estate places in the world is Hong Kong. They have the highest square foot price for a square foot of real estate there. But in Hong Kong, actually the government administers 80% of the land ownership. Now, this is not ideal. In fact, a lot of the Hong Kong uprisings were caused by young people that can't afford to get a house because of this system. But it just shows you that there's a lot of restorative justice that needs to go on in the resources of nature sector. If someone sticks a windmill up in the atmosphere, it doesn't mean they own the atmosphere. If you capture some rainwater, it doesn't mean you own the water vapor in the atmosphere. And there was a guy, Henry George, who was very popular in the 1800s. He kind of was the founder of the progressive era with his book Progress and Poverty, where he said that land is a commons and we should have land value tax. Let tax the bads, not the goods. The good thing is people using the land and valuing the location. You should own all the stuff you improve on the land, but the land itself needs to be available to the price system. And a very rational kind of annual auction, of what different prices of lands would rent for on an annual basis. So this is another way that we've got a lot of prosperity looming. Is the price system is great, but it's very primitive so far. We don't do things. There's a branch of philosophy called axiology, which is the study of value. There's another branch of philosophy called praxeology, which is the study of human action. And there's a lot of digital data-driven wisdom that can be done between axiology and praxeology. We're not doing it yet. We can use the Internet of Things. We can use, the concept of the Dunbar number, where you can only know about 150 people in cognitively form close relationships with. So, maybe this is going to lead to intentional communities of around 150 people in these Allison-style universal habitats, and that would be a great way to bring about people doing what they love. We don't live forever. We got to use our 4 billion heartbeats in the most blissful, purpose-driven way that we can. And that's what we should be doing with society, is arranging it so that becomes possible. And I really look forward to this desktop industrial revolution that's allowing us to be self-sufficient and 3D print all the necessities of life, kind of in a Bucky Fuller vision. I think his vision is on the verge of becoming reality. So I'll turn it over to the next speaker there, and glad to hear from Mr. Greg today. Really love his ideas.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Adam.
Thank you very much, Sharif. Great topic, by the way. So, of course, there are many different kinds of prosperity. I suppose the most obvious one in this context for this discussion would be industriousness, sustainability, environmentally friendly industries and infrastructures, energy and power for all, also food and water and medical access for all. So the kind of prosperity I'm most interested in is life quality.
Adam, you're going to need to speak up. You're pretty quiet. Oh, you may have crashed.
I think it's froze again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's all pitch in and get Adam a new mic. How about that?
Yeah, that would be good.
What's that?
You need a new microphone.
Yeah.
But we weren't able to hear you.
It's on its way. So yeah, like I said, which could also be described as quality of life, life quality. So in my mind, there are three main things that influence a person's quality of life. So that is pleasure, happiness, and meaning. And I think the trap that most people fall into is that they invest too much in happiness and pleasure at the expense of meaning. So for a person to have a meaningful life, for a person to feel like their life is full of meaning and that they have a destiny or worthy life goal to work towards that overarches their whole life, ideally comes from a combination of feeling useful, feeling needed, being part of a team with other people who have shared interests and concerns, feeling relied on and knowing others rely on you and that others see you as a competent team player. One of the worst things that can eat away at a person's self-esteem is to be called incompetent, especially if you believe it yourself. So as the saying goes, do what you love and do what you can jump out of bed for in the morning instead of opening your eyes and dreading the coming day. I'm sure we can all appreciate that doing a day job you hate can keep you in bed or leaving a job you might not even necessarily hate, just feeling something bad enough. So there's the Japanese word ikigai. There's really something to remember. Ikigai, a Japanese word. It's one of those words from another language that doesn't have exact direct translations into English, like Schadenfreude. And ikigai is a word used to denote that overlap of doing what you're good at, doing what you're paid for, doing what other people need you for, or to make, and doing what gives you pleasure, and so on. So just imagine a diagram, like a Venn diagram composed of all these different values, and ikigai is there in the middle. So that to me is the more social, moral, and spiritual side of the prosperity issue. Another area I'm interested in concerning this topic is medicine. So particularly my philosophical concerns lean towards bioethical abolitionism, also known as the abolition of involuntary suffering, or its radical minimization at least across not just human society, but maybe eventually throughout the animal kingdom as well, and then the rest of the living world here on Earth, the elderly.
Adam, we're still having a hell of a time understanding you. You've got a lot of background noise, and your voice is really quiet. So I'm probably getting one out of every 3 or 4 words. It's just really hard to hear you.
Now it's mute. His
Mr. Adam,
microphone.
Okay. Yes, I directly want to go for the concluding. Yes, Mr. Adam, I will give you time, no problem. I directly want to go for concluding remarks. Mr. David, okay. Mr. David Schumacher, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes.
So I want to end where I started today, back with electricity again. I want to talk about the electricity of the future. We've talked about a number of really great technologies that will move people forward. But as I think back about electricity, I wonder if there were comments at the time that said, you know what, we don't have candles enough or whale oil enough to light everybody's home. Let's not start any new technologies until we can get what we've done distributed properly and consolidate in place. And I want to say that if we're not going forward, we're going backwards. We need to continue to push on for whatever the new electricity is. I think it's augmenting intelligence. I think that's going to touch on every aspect of humans here on Earth. And as we push out from Earth and mine the asteroid belt or whatever it is we do, we're going to look back in 50 years and go, you know what? I'm really glad we did that, just like we did with distributing electricity throughout the world. Thanks, Sharif. Great show. That's my final comments.
Yes, thank you. I just want to share one information because from Malaysia, different university, bank from Asia Pacific, they're actually really love to know more about Transhumanist Party because many researchers, they're doing research on transhumanism. So for their kind informations, as Mr. David Schumacher, he is from Transhumanist Party. They are actually research-based organizations. I just want to share their information because many of the people and researchers and the banks and the government policymakers, they love to know more about that. So this is the membership. I think the membership is 100% free. So those who are interested, especially our audience about Transhumanist Party, they can join, and I think that Transhumanist Party has very professional. They are a very good policy institution, I want to say. Even development policy is the biggest challenges. Even I know policymakers, even those who are interested to develop policy for development from World Talent Economy Forum I want to invite. So the audience, those who interest about Transhumanist Party, I think that they have a membership form and you easily can join in Transhumanist Party. So thank you, Professor David Schumacher, for your continuous support for World Talent Economy Forum. Professor Edward, this show is your show because we are arranging these Human Achievement Days, and this is new for me even. I never know these things. So how you want to share your views with our audience?
Thank you, and thank you very much again. Your achievement, part of Human Achievement Day, is to celebrate achievements, not only your own achievement but others. And so I congratulate you on this incredible achievement, the World Talent Economic Forum. I started this day because I believe we are all achievers, whether we're nurturing a child to maturity or a business to profitability, whether we're writing a song or a poem or a business plan or a dissertation, whether we're laying the bricks to the building, designing the building, or arranging for its financing. We're all achievers. That's what stimulates and gives our lives meaning personally and what helps society. So what I want to do is continue to raise consciousness about the potential of the human mind, the human creativity to bring about and to unleash our incredible future. We need the liberty to do so. I mean, people like Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak started in a garage. We have a tradition here in the United States of do it yourself. So I just want everyone in the Asia Pacific area listening, go to www.humanachievementalliance.org. I'm going to be continuing to post information about this, videos and so forth, and working, of course, with Sharif, with the Transhumanist Party, and my other friends on this project. We are making the future now, and so I want us to celebrate what we're doing today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Edward. Professor Rob, what's your concluding remarks?
Well, I think we have to watch out for things like the false equivalency. Tony made some excellent comments about the other things in the world we need to fix. But the issue is, if we don't do some of the things that we're doing, it doesn't mean those other things are going to get fixed. If we stop trying to go to Mars, that money isn't going to automatically flow into uplifting cultures that are economically disadvantaged. It just won't happen. In fact, before we were going after Mars, we weren't doing that before. And the other issue with regard to space travel is, what if we have an event much like took out the dinosaurs? An asteroid hits the planet. Right now, if the planet dies, our race dies. We do not have any capability of surviving a catastrophic event like that. We might have some seeds that would survive in storage, but we're not going to. So the idea of spreading the race to another planet is, in my opinion, it's critical to the survival of the race, given that our predecessors died as a result of a catastrophic event. So this idea, and it often comes in the face of any advancement, this idea that, well, if you're doing stuff over here, you should be really doing stuff over there. And the thing is that there's no argument. We should be doing a lot of these other things, getting rid of economic inequality, dealing with abuse at world levels, slavery. I mean, we go down a list of stuff that we're not doing well enough in that we should be doing, but trying to argue that we should stop doing the positive things we're doing because we're not doing enough, we're not fixing enough of the negative things is a false equivalency. It's if we stop doing the positive things, we just stop doing the positive things, and we now have more problems to deal with. So, but it does come back to the fact that we do have to be concerned about consequential damages, or unintended damages. For a lot of these things, the changes we make, we have to also take into account some of the negative aspects of them. So, for instance, if we move to heavy robotics and automation, we are going to have employment problems. That means those people are going to need to be trained. They're going to need to be put into new careers. Otherwise, we're going to replace one problem, people doing jobs they don't want to do, with another problem, which is large unemployment and homelessness. We don't want that either. At the end, we have to deal with a bunch of really interesting things. I think it was David Smith that came up with this idea of on-demand education, which I find is a fascinating concept. The idea of being able to get educated for what you need to do right prior to when you need to do it. Our education system is badly broken. We put people in school largely learning skills that they will never use anyplace. They are trained perfunctory. They go down a list as if every student is the same and has the same interests, and that's just not the case. Education should be customizable for the individual student, and this idea of just-in-time education allows you to actually use the skills that you've developed shortly after or during while you're being educated, and that means you'll have higher retention, and education will be far more effective. And so in the end, perhaps one of the ways we can at least drive forward in terms of advancement and really start with one of the fundamental problems we have, which is the lack of critical thinking in our societies, is to really rethink how we do education so the next generations that come forward can actually do a better job improving the world and quality of life and advancement than the prior generations have done. And so fixing education probably will be one of the things that we probably all could agree needs to get a lot more focus. And one of the nice things is with conversational AI, robotics, telepresence, digital twins, we can do things in education we have never been able to do before. We just have to apply the technology to the problem, scale it, put in place measurements to take into account how we're doing and make sure we're improving things and not making them worse. A lot of things we do in education sound good, but we actually make the entire process worse. And so measurement becomes a critical part of the process. And in the end, we can then better assure a better future.
Thank you, Professor Rob. Professor David Smith.
Rob, thank you so much for that one. The just-in-time education is something that I've actually seen work in multiple cultures. And it's one thing I think I will see there. I was involved, actually, Tony, in Brazil with Petrobras when Petrobras went through their privatization. And FGV University and I put together a just-in-time education curriculum to guide the Petrobras executives through what it meant to go from a government-owned company to a private company. We worked with Dan Golden when he was the director of NASA to put a concept of how do you do just-in-time education in place to be there when you're in deep space or in orbit and you don't have the experts and things on hand. So it's a concept that can work. It's just, it needs to be put in a broad context to work. And as we begin to look at what we can do with both generational AI and transcendent AI, transcendent intelligence, which transcendent intelligence is really a implanted sensor intelligence based between the human brain and the computer. Those are going to make it even much more likely to happen as we're going forward. But the one thing I think that is the remark I want to make as a concluding remark as we look at the future of achievement is we really need to get a better grasp of what the vulnerabilities are, what the spillovers are. And by spillovers, I mean those unattended consequences that are happening as we talk about all these different types of technologies today, and how these vulnerabilities and spillovers are going to ripple through our interconnected world. I mean, to me, one of the most profound insights I had several decades ago is that a car crash on the other side of the world could affect me in real time profoundly here. Prior to that, the other side of the world usually took days to get the information here. And that interconnected world is one of the achievements that I think will continue to evolve, continue to grow. But it's one that's up to people like the ones on the panel today, Sharif, with you and with your leadership throughout your region that will come in place with being is beginning to become the masters of this interconnected world instead of just the ones who are part of that spillover with the unintended consequences. So I think that's the next big challenge we kind of need to address as we're going forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Professor David Smith. Mr. Greg, what's your concluding remarks?
You need to unmute.
Can unmute?
Let's see. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, yeah, I have muted. My concluding remarks are that we can't have a bright future. It's really up to us. We have to think ahead and plan ahead. Now, my concept is one that would be capable of achieving economic parity for everyone, because communities could chip in and build these homes for each other. Everyone could live in a home like the one I drew out, and you would live at a high standard of living in a home like that, because you would have all the food you need, you'd have the energy you need, you could easily, the other costs would be very small. Your cost of living would be a lot smaller once your home is established and you get your food, your living, your energy, everything right there. And you can make a lot of the stuff you need. You can trade that with other people. You'd have your own economy if necessary. So if we live in a world where robotics has done so much, you can still live and survive and thrive. And do so at a very comfortable level. And if you had some residual income from selling food or things you made in the basement or whatever, you could, or whatever else you do, like working from home like I do, you could then have money to buy, electronics or whatever other things you would like to do, travel or whatever. But you won't have the needs and the burden on the environment, on each other. People would not have the burdens upon each other. We wouldn't need as much even in the way of social welfare, because you've got what you need for the most part, unless you're disabled. But now you could have 3D robotics actually grow that food for you. 3D printer type robotics could grow your food, could make your stuff. I mean, it's just an amazing idea to me that we could eliminate our footprint upon the planet, live in prosperity. Everybody in the world could have a prosperous life in habitats like this, and communities could get. I mean, what do you need? You need sandbags. You may need some structural supports in your home, but the basis of it is sandbags, and you'll need some roof structure, be it steel or concrete or whatever you want to use. But there's a lot of options for something like this. So I think it's a new way of thinking more than anything. So we keep talking about what we can't do. We can't do this. We can't do that. Well, let's blow that open. And this concept is to start right here on Earth. But we can use this kind of concept anywhere. And in a space habitat, it gives you redundancy. Should you use your pressure vessel, each home could be built as a pressure vessel itself. There's just so much flexibility in ideas like this. And I think that's where we can go. And you can plug that in with your AI, your transhumanism. I had talked to Dan the other night. I said, hey, I like the idea of us being able to, put a brain computer interface in our heads, but as long as we're in control of it. To me, freedom and you being in control are the important things. I'm sure most of you agree with that. We need to be able to maintain who we are as we grow together and become a more tight knit global, or even interstellar civilization somewhere way down the road. But we can start here. We can start in our backyards. We can repurpose our houses. You can modify them to have more thermal mass and features like this. So I just have a bright notion for the future. If we can get through the challenging days ahead of us. Right now, we have international politics and domestic politics in so many countries that are ripping us apart. And there's no need for a lot of this stuff. If we suddenly don't need everybody else's resources, we got what we need, we should be able to take a lot of the steam out of the need for warfare. I think we can have peace and prosperity going forward. And so for human achievement, the human achievement stems on the backgrounds of things like Earthships, and which I celebrate, and the families like the DeVace family in Pasadena, California, and our creative intelligence to do these things. So I think we're building on the foundation of what we've achieved already, but we just need a new way to look forward, how we can live together in peace and harmony. And I have another, I call it universal habitat, but my other word name for it is harmony habitat. We can live in harmony with nature and each other, and I think this is the way to go.
Thank you, Madam Tony. Can you unmute?
Oh, you okay?
Madam.
Thank you for your invitation, Sharif, to participate with this amazing group. And what Rob said and Greg, okay, it's okay. We can. I know one thing. It doesn't make you if you don't do this researches and the future. I know it's not the money. It's not going to go already to the poverty countries and to the social things, but maybe all of you and me also, and everybody who's a scientist or a researcher, to think a way of balancing things, and always having in mind that we have a lot of words in the same word, different countries, different stages of living, of human resources, or human resources we have around all the planet, I believe. But I understand. But how to divide this? How to balance the resource, the human way of the society, to build a more harmonious society, and to have these things for everyone to live a life, a basic life. Because sometimes I'm very, how to say, not. I think it's we become thinking sometimes, and not, I'm not a radical, like, wow, why they think I'm going to the moon, but still here or Mars we are in poverty, we are in slavery in some places, and here in Brazil also, and that's the main thing. But you are okay, congratulations for all your work, and in my field, it's a kind of different way of field. I'm a researcher also, I'm a journalist. If you can change some, how to say, datas, and share things, it's okay. It's always good. And I hope the world one day in planet Earth still, it's easy to make uh, a better world for everyone. It's easy with little resources. I don't know if maybe Sharif, just saying a little bit, 1 minute. In India, we had that guy, I don't remember the name. I saw an interview of him here in Brazil. He wanted to make a car with a little, I think was with electrician 11 years ago, maybe it was called Tata. I don't know if you remember this guy. He was an economic, and he said it's not just being good with people, but it's if you don't, in the most, how to say, most rational way of thinking, if you develop better technologies, and even the internet, you have everyone sees everything and can share everything, but what is the content of on this sharing? What people, like, I don't remember also, I'm not good on a lot of names, but we say like we are living in a liquid society. It's everything it's a philosopher, I don't know his name, it's a contemporary philosopher. He said the liquid society, because it's everything goes through your hands. It's very, you put data, you put information, but what we are doing with this information, and in each way for everyone. Globalization, it's very easy to say it's better, but it's really better, as I can say some people like a good philosopher also, Noam Chomsky. Do you know about Noam Chomsky? If you know him, it's in this kind of way that I think we should try to understand better what we are doing with our technology, with our globalization, if it's better really, or if we are doing the same way of thinking for everyone and nobody's understanding anything anymore, just doing and doing and doing, and okay, it's good to have technology, but how to use this technology in a good way, to do a better way, a better word, a better thing, not just to do. I did, wow, 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 it's good, I see, I can do it. Okay, I think it's okay, it's good. We have to go far away, we have to go on, but we have to rethink what we are doing with this technology. If it Because in my humid way of thinking, my English is not so good, I don't speak every day. To be humid, how to say, to be really real and transparent, and look in the mirror and say what I'm doing with all of this. Just trying to discover, and go on, and or really I'm doing something to do better for everyone, because our life it's really short. it's like this, 70, 80, 90, even if I work with the longevity issue. But what to do with these more years if you are not living in a good way? It's another question. So live more, it's good, wow, but how, in each way we are going to live? With your needness, with decent life, with dignity, even since you are born, not only when you are old, but in your adult life, and even we want to live more, but in each way, and for what? Just this. But congratulations for everyone, and thank you for your invitation.
Mhm.
And
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
thank you. You're doing a great job.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Dan. Thank you. Yes.
If I had to name like the top three achievements of the last 100 years that are going to bring future prosperity, I would probably say the open source movement, which is kind of part of the internet. The internet sort of grew out of an open source protocol, being able to store and forward information freely. I would say permaculture, which grew out of permanent agriculture and designing with nature, and also I would say the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which I kind of see the U.S. Transhumanist Party platform as an update of. I think we're going from human rights to humane rights. We're acknowledging the value of other sentient entities in the biosphere and beyond the biosphere. So I think people, are going to have prosperity only if they are willing to put the work in. It's not a spectator sport to have a good open source humane rights society. You have to get out there, and so tag you're it, and I'm doing a project to try and connect all the permaculture installations of the world with a freedom of movement corridor, where we talk about human rights and humane rights, but where can you actually practice them? So I'm trying to do a little experiment here as a QR code I made for a GoFundMe. if you point your camera at that, it should take you to a GoFundMe page about a documentary about the Perma Trail project. So that's a little QR code experiment. Hope you don't mind that. And thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you. This is an excellent discussion. Professor David Smith, Professor Rob, Mr. Dan, Madam Tony, Mr. Greg, for joining today's sessions. And thank you, everyone. Bye-bye and take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.